Today we're going to be doing something that I've been looking forward to for a couple of years now. Ever since we started doing reviews, and by reviews I mean specifically reviews of Texas state parks, I've been wanting to do one about Lake Whitney State Park. Now, why have I yearned to do one for a particular state park like that? Well, the reason is, this was the lake, this was my state park, this is a place I would go through so much of my youth, and then later in my younger adult times, and even up until I was probably 35, 40 years old, or maybe even longer, I would go here on a regular basis. And then, I still go here. Lake Whitney is a beautiful lake and a beautiful state park, but goodness gracious, I have done so much on Lake Whitney and in the state park. It's just beautiful, but I have been swimming there, I've been fishing there numerous times, scuba diving. I've lost count how many times that I've gone scuba diving in Lake Whitney. Lake Whitney is a unusually deep lake for just being a lake in Texas, and clear because of that. So because of the clarity and the depth and the interesting features underwater and the fish you can see, it was a good destination for scuba diving, which I was really into for quite some time. But I mean, goodness gracious, we've done so many different things. Pulled behind a boat. I've been on a sailboat on this lake, on a friend of mine's big sailboat, cabin cruiser, sleeps 6 or 8 people kind of sailboat on it. Before I even had my own sailboats, but mine were relatively small. But anyway, Lake Whitney is just one of those places that I've been so fond of and have done so much. I'm thrilled to finally be able to do a review and share with you some of my adventures at Lake Whitney and how neat of a place it is. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was the creation of Lake Whitney. Now, back in the 40s and 50s, the Brazos River was one of these rivers, like so many in Texas, that you had one of two states. It was either usually dry, you couldn't even hardly float a boat in it, or it was out of control. It would flood out of its banks and endanger towns like Waco, for example. And okay, we got somebody doing something weird here in their car, and so I'm gonna let them go ahead and do it. I don't know what they're doing. And anyway, they've decided to pull in front of me with their flashers on and doing all kinds of weird stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna keep talking, even though we're probably about to have a wreck, and it'll be a great video. Here we go. Anyway, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna tell you about Lake Whitney, and the lake was created.
Wait.
What are you doing? Okay, well, the lake was created in about 1951 as part of a project by the Army Corps of Engineers to try to tame this lake that was causing these problems. Now, I mean, not the lake, but the river that was causing these problems. Now, Lake Whitney wasn't the only lake. Possum Kingdom Lake and some others were made to try to tame the Brazos River and make it so the Brazos River could have not flooding, it could have some kind of stabilized water level, things like that. Okay, that's the point of it. But the thing is, once they just did a little bit of that, it kind of quit being an issue. And so now what do you do with it? Well, it became a recreational lake. So it has kind of a varied history. Another weird thing about Lake Whitney State Park is, unlike most state parks, although there are a couple that do this, they have their own airstrip. You can fly in to Lake Whitney State Park and go fishing, and then get back in your airplane and go back home. And that's kind of unusual, and this is something I'm going to hopefully be able to show you in the video. But it's an interesting place. It has something like 165 campsites, of which something like 40 of them, or something like that, are full service. They have water, electricity, and sewer. Full hookups. So it's a great state park. It's got lots of animals. If you're there in the morning or in the late afternoons, evenings, you're going to see deer. but you might also see coyotes, bobcats, and even the occasional bald eagle here at Lake Whitney State Park. Well, with that, we're just gonna move on down the road here, but before well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to come back and tell you something about the park that's in my history and my fond memories in a minute. Okay, one of the reasons why we came down here for so many times in my youth, because I had family who lived in a small town near here, or near Lake Whitney, called Valley Mills, okay? And I had, I don't know, cousins, aunts and uncles, things like that. My dad was like the youngest kid in a family of like 17 or something like that. No kidding. And so I had a lot of cousins and that I didn't know who were, you know, decades older than me down here, and so I had second or third cousins to play with, but we'd come down here to visit with family, and I'd be bored out of my mind for most of that. But I got to play this game with my parents on the way down to Lake Whitney, this game that they would play every time, and I must say, you know, I would win every time, and that was who is going to find the lake first. Who's going to see? Keep your eyes open. Let's play a game. Who's going to see the lake first? You know, who's going to see the lake? You win if you see the lake first. You know, so what? Oh, okay. Well, there we go. We have a winner. Now I know that they did that just to, you know, manipulate me into calming down or something like that. But I won every time, so I really, you know, I hold that, you know, over them forever. Anyway, we're almost to Lake Whitney. And we would cross the Lake Whitney Dam, then go on down and go on to Valley Mills. But we're getting pretty close. In just a minute, we'll be there. All right, now would probably be a good time to remind you to like and subscribe. But even more important than liking and subscribing is share. Share is the most, no, not her, no, share the video. If everyone who sees a video that you like would share it with 2 of your friends, that would be great. So, okay, keep that in mind. Yeah, liking, subscribing, great. But share, no, not her, sharing is the most important thing. If you would do that, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Let's get going. All right, well, here we are at the first loop you come to after you enter the park, and it's campsites 1 through 51, and then there's going to be a little kind of a loop off of it too. These campsites, as you can see, are all pull through, and they are all full service, full hookups. So they have about 63 full hookups here, and virtually all of them are pull through. So, hey, I'm telling you, we're going to be down here. That's all there is to that. We're going to have fun with it. Now, the only weird thing about all this, though, if you go to one of the other campsites or camp loops or whatever you want to call them, the dump station is here in the area where they don't need a dump station. And you know, we just passed it right there. That's the dump station is right here. Why isn't it over there where they have the water and electrical hookups, where people are going to need the dump station? Because this one is the farthest one away from the lake itself. They can't have a septic system right there within just a few feet of the lake. And all of those sites are right there by the lake. They got great views, real pretty, some of them. I'll show them to you here in a minute. And that's great. But the downside is the dump station is clear over here in the area that doesn't need a dump station. Oh, hi there. Hey, Lake Whitney is just a beautiful lake, isn't it? I mean, it's a beautiful blue lake like that. It's a deep lake. This lake in this state park is known for fishing, kayaking, paddling, scuba diving, you name it. You can do it here. And unlike a lot of state parks, this one, the lake is open to every size boat you could possibly imagine. I've sailed on here, great big sailboats, and you can bring your ski boat out here or whatever. A lot of state parks, you know, they're kind of restricted on the size of boat that you can have, and not here. You can have a lot of fun here doing all kinds of things. Isn't it just beautiful? I love it here. We're going to go talk about some other stuff, like the wildlife that you could see here at Lake Whitney. Is not stuff you see everywhere, especially in Texas. Okay, I think I may have mentioned how the Corps of Engineers built this lake in about 1951, and around 1953 the state leased something like 775 acres. Okay, Lake Whitney isn't known for its long, challenging trails like so many other parks, national parks, state parks, or whatever. They just don't. But this is one of the trails that goes off here for about a mile and then comes back. All right, and so it's about a 2-mile trail, if you want to call it that, 2.2 mile trail. The fun thing about it is early morning or late, or kind of in late afternoons. If you go this way, you're going to see maybe a field with deer in it. You're going to see hawks out here working, getting their breakfast or doing whatever, and you might see a couple of bald eagles. They have a pair that lives here year-round. You might see some during the different seasons in the winter and things like that, some migrating eagles. But they have a pair that are here all the time. So how's that for a cool adventure or possibility? You know, and not to mention also along the ways you can see bobcats, armadillos, well, I don't know what else we've seen here, but that's kind of cool. And right behind the camera right there is a real nice campsite I'm going to show you in just a few seconds that's right on the lake. So you can camp right on the lake, come over here, do your morning hike, see who knows what, okay? That sounds like fun. Lake Whitney has an assortment of shelters and cabins. In case you don't know, the difference between a shelter and a cabin, well, there's not that much, but at the same time, it's a concept that's quite different. A shelter is basically a little more than a tent. It's enclosed. If it rains, you probably won't get wet. It's mostly got just screened in windows and a picnic table, like a concrete table or something like that inside of it. A cabin is going to have the picnic table, but it's probably also going to have 2 sets of bunk beds, and it's going to have windows you can open and close. So in that way, they're a little bit better, and it can be a little bit more comfortable. But you know, if you're planning on sleeping on the ground, then a shelter is a step above that. And if you want something a little bit nicer with, you know, bunk beds, then go for a cabin. Okay, well, it's kind of hard to find, but I'm at the Lake Whitney airstrip. This is a real, honest-to-goodness airstrip that's 1,000 feet long. Unfortunately, they don't allow aircraft to land here anymore. And why? It's a perfectly good airstrip. Well, there was a time when you could fly in, fish, and fly back out, which sounds like a fun day to me. But you can't do that anymore. It's because in the early 90s, the Secret Service didn't want an unregulated airstrip this close to Crawford, where President Bush is. They had to completely decommission this. The only air traffic control they had even before that was out of Waco, but that's no big deal. ATCs can work remote airfields like this. Well, they didn't want that, and so they made it no more. Secret Service likes to control the airspace around presidents and former presidents a lot. They don't want anybody crashing into their house or anything like that. So this is controlled airspace, and so they don't want restricted airspace, I guess would be the better term. Is that right? And so I have to ask her because she's the pilot. And so yeah, this is restricted airspace. But what you can do, and this was really smart, radio controlled model airplane club, and then the near one, the close by one, decided to make this like the best model airplane runway on the planet. And they bring scale model aircraft down here, and scale model jets, and quarter scale Cetabrias and things like that, and fly them here, which is pretty spectacular. And you have to register in order to do it, and you have to be a member of the club or something. But unlike most national parks or even state parks, they don't want you flying drones and doing video. Okay, now you can get permission to do it if you have the right certifications, things like that, which I'm going to get. But and you can do it if you get the right certifications and blah blah blah. But here they pretty much encourage you to fly drones. Now, why is that? Well, first off, you have this giant area that has no RVs in it, because an RV, according to, the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, is somebody's home or domicile, and you can't just fly in and be looking in somebody's window or something like that over somebody's house without permission. Okay, so they restrict you from flying over the residents, I guess you could call them, and but you can fly out here all you want and get good shots of the lake. And if somebody's RV, a mile away happens to be in the shot, that's one thing. But flying over and looking down at them, that's another. So you're encouraged. This is a place where you can fly a drone with permission in a state park. Really, really rare, and I can't wait to come back and do that. So Yeah, it's a shame to lose the airstrip, but it's kind of cool that now it's a place you can fly drones and you can fly all kinds of other neat radio controlled models and things like that out here, and those radio controlled jets to watch them fly is pretty cool. So there you go, there you have it, the state of the airstrip today. I still think it's kind of cool.